we asking people allowed to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen. With that, I yield.
So bizarrely, she claims that her mother will be affected by this law, even though her mother apparently is not an illegal alien. And that raises an obvious question. Is Rashida Tlaib's mother a shoplifter?
Matt Walsh is going after a woke CNN host for an absolutely unhinged take that they made on their show. Let's get into this clip here where Matt Walsh absolutely demolishes yet another CNN host live on his show.
Bizarre lack of panic among some on the left in the wake of Trump's barrage of executive orders. But there is one area where the panic has been much more obvious and more to the scale of what you'd expect. And that relates to the Trump administration's efforts to fulfill one of his central campaign promises, which is to deport illegal aliens who are currently residing in the United States and to prevent more illegal aliens from entering into the United States. In particular, Republicans in Congress have just passed the Lake and Riley Act with the support of dozens of Democrats. The point of the law is to require the Department of Homeland Security detain illegal aliens who commit crimes, including shoplifting, burglary, larceny, and so on, so that they can be deported immediately. As you may remember, Lake and Riley's killer was picked up for a variety of crimes, including shoplifting, before he went hunting for women to rape and murder at the campus of the University of Georgia. But instead of being deported or detained, he was immediately set free, which is what enabled him to commit this horrific crime. So this is about as basic a law as you can imagine. It doesn't even give any new authority to federal immigration officials. Instead, it simply mandates that they do what was already their job when an illegal alien commits a crime. If anything, the law is too permissive. We should be requiring that federal authorities deport everyone who's here illegally, regardless of whether they commit an additional crime or not. But as it stands, it's just a baseline measure to ensure that no more women like Lake and Riley are murdered by people who obviously should have been deported a long time ago. But Democrats don't see it that way. In fact, they've been having full-blown meltdowns in Congress over this legislation and Donald Trump's plans more generally with immigration. So here, for example, is the astute scholar Rashida Tlaib.
Enough is enough. It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving in to racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother who will get stopped and profiled. She have to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people allowed to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen. With that, I yield.
So bizarrely, she claims that her mother will be affected by this law, even though her mother apparently is not an illegal alien. And that raises an obvious question. Is Rashida Tlaib's mother a shoplifter? I mean, that's the only way this complaint really makes sense. The law doesn't establish any criteria to profile anyone. It just requires that illegal aliens who commit crimes get detained. Quoting from the legislation, the Secretary of Homeland Security shall issue a detainer for an for an alien described in paragraph 1E, and if the alien is not otherwise detained by federal, state, or local officials, shall effectively and expeditiously take custody of the alien. Now,
it's so funny how Donald Trump being involved in any sort of issue just completely breaks the brain of every single leftist involved, to where, like Matt Walsh is saying right here, this person's crying. She's basically crying in front of a group of people about her mom possibly getting racially profiled. Unless your mom is a shoplifter, like Matt Walsh is saying, they're not going to do anything to your mom. You know, like what are you talking about? Especially, you know, in this specific instance that she's talking about, the bill that she's talking about, they're not going to do anything unless she's a shoplifter, she's a criminal, she's committing crime. That's the only way. But Donald Trump being involved in any sort of issue just breaks everyone's brains, you know, not just in this instance, but also you saw the Selena Gomez Instagram story where she's like, all of my friends and family are going to be deported. Idiot. If your friends and family are here illegally, they're breaking the law. That's like you crying about, oh, my friends who commit murder They're going to be thrown in jail because of this new law that prohibits murder. Yeah, no shit, idiot. That's what happens when you break the law. There's consequences to breaking the law. I know it's a news flash, right? It's crazy, groundbreaking information. All of these people's brains are broken just because Donald Trump is involved in this. So far, I don't know the exact numbers. I forgot. I saw them earlier in an article. Obama deported more people per day than Donald Trump has deported per day so far in his presidency. But everybody's losing their minds over Donald Trump's deportations, even though Joe Biden let in so many people every single day that even if Donald Trump does match Obama's deportations, it's not really going to make a dent, to be honest with you. Like, it's kind of too late, you know. They did the damage. And, you know, if nobody really said anything, none of these leftists, none of these people were crying on Instagram stories about their friends and family being deported whenever Obama was president. No, nobody, none of them. It's only because Donald Trump was involved and he completely breaks these people's brains. I don't get it. But Trump derangement syndrome is very, very real, and it's gotten way worse. There's actual assassination attempts against the guy on live television while he's giving speeches. Like, guys, your brains are broken. If we're getting to that point, your brains are broken, okay? All these leftists celebrating the assassination attempt because they are out there. People like Destiny celebrating it, laughing about it. People celebrating that healthcare, whatever the hell, CEO getting assassinated. Guys, our brains are broken. If we're celebrating that, our brains are broken. Number one, it's never that deep to where you're going to kill someone. Like, it's just not that deep. And then also, you're throwing your own life away. You know, you're taking out a CEO. They're just going to hire a new CEO, dumbass. Your life is over, though. You can't get out of jail. You can't hire someone to get you out of jail, you know? And like, if Donald Trump is definitely a special cultural figure, you know, but there will be someone who takes his place if something were to happen to him. You know, somebody else is going to step up. It might be Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't know who it would be now because people are kind of turning on Vivek. So I don't know, but somebody would step into his place. His strategies are way too successful in getting votes for someone to not step into his place and take his place. There's always going to be a Donald Trump figure now. I don't know who always it will be. I don't have a crystal ball. There's always going to be a Trump figure, though, no matter what you do. No matter if he gets taken out or not, there's always going to be somebody. It might be Donald Trump, one of Donald Trump's sons. Let's get back to what Matt Walsh had to say right here.
You scroll down up to paragraph 1E. It applies to illegal aliens who are, quote, charged with, arrested for, convicted of, admits having committed, or admits committing acts which constitute the essential elements of any burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting offenses. So maybe Rashida Tlaib is trying to tell us something about her mother and her community. Maybe this is a cry for help. I don't know. Otherwise, it's all very confusing. Fortunately, we have AOC to shed some light on the matter. Here's her very well-reasoned objection to the legislation. Listen.
If someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up.
Again, this is all nonsense. There's no provision in legislation where you get rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation as soon as someone, quote, points a finger and accuses you of shoplifting. That's not in there at all. I mean, she's missing two important things. First of all, the law doesn't apply to you unless you're already in this country illegally, meaning you're already subject to immediate deportation. And secondly, random people can't just point a finger at these aliens. They have to be, at a minimum, charged by a prosecutor with an additional crime on top of being here illegally. A lot of Democrats seem to struggle with understanding any of this. Over at CNN, for example.
And by the way, guys, I get asked all the time how I grew this YouTube channel so quickly in this politics niche. And what a lot of you don't realize is that I'm a YouTube strategist that has worked with a lot of top channels in this niche, such as Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk. Me and my business partner worked with. Russell Brand actually reached out to me and we designed his thumbnails and gave him some strategy tips on how to grow his YouTube channel. Lauren Chen, so many other names. I could keep going on forever. But what I'm actually going to do, since so many of you have been asking me, is I'm hosting a free live workshop, a free live class this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, where I'm literally going to break down the entire strategy that I use for this Justin Reloaded channel, as well as all the other channels and the top channels in this niche that we have worked with. I hope to see you there. If you are interested in joining, you can check the link in the pinned comment, or you can check the top link in the description, either one, and you'll be able to sign up and be at that workshop where I'm going to break all this down and show you how you can also build a YouTube channel to this point and make enough money to go full time with it.
Anchor Dana Bash was visibly stunned when Tom Homan explained that all illegal aliens are subject to deportation, even if they haven't committed an additional crime within our borders. Watch.
We're not going to strike, and this is a difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So there's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
Let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying, because at first you said that the first targets are those with criminal records, but you are also saying that those who are undocumented in the U.S., also who don't have criminal records, people who are working in their communities, maybe even have spouses who are American citizens, they could be swept up with ICE today as well?
What I'm telling you is when we go find our priority target, which is a criminal alien, if he's with others in the United States illegally, we're going to take enforcement action against him. We're going to enforce the immigration law.
You know, one of the things that's great about Tom Homan is that he doesn't even pretend to care about sanitizing any of this. It's what he's been promising to do for months, and he's going to do it. Voters clearly want him to do it. They've got the mandate of the American people. So when the CNN anchor reacts with disbelief, he just doesn't care. That's not going to stop the rest of the corporate press from relying on predictable emotional blackmail. Over the Washington Post.
Like I said, too, Matt Walsh is spot on right here. But like I also said, none of these people that are melting down about what Donald Trump's evil government, evil cabinet is trying to do to all these innocent people who are here illegally, by the way, completely illegally. They're not doing anything to anyone who's here illegally and not breaking the law in any sort of way. None of them were doing this. None of them were melting down. None of them are having these crazy emotional responses whenever Obama was doing the same thing, actually at a way larger scale than Donald Trump is even doing right now. Which is crazy to think about, by the way. You know, I appreciate what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying for sure. And there's a lot of executive, you know, he's making a lot of executive orders and he's doing a lot of stuff. He's trying. But when you think about the fact that Obama was doing more deportations every day, like we might want to step it up a little bit. You know, I don't want to get like that already. It's only been like a week since he's been in office or whatever. But like we only got 4 years of this thing. It's not going to be 2 terms in a row like Obama's was. This should be a top priority, as well as election integrity should be a top priority. Those really should be the 2 main things. You know, I think election integrity, you know, getting the illegals out, fixing the immigration crisis, and then fixing the foreign aid to these wars that we should have nothing to do with. You know, it should be America first. And right now, America needs the money a whole lot more than these foreign people do. I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from their perspective, they probably need it more. But from our perspective, we need it more. You know, it's our money. It's our tax dollars. We should at least get a say in where it goes. And right now we get no say. We just get our money stolen out of our pockets and we don't get a choice. And it gets sent over to the Middle East or to Ukraine. You know, like that should not be the case at all. Anyway, let me know in the comments you guys think about Matt Walsh absolutely going in on these woke idiots, on AOC, on these CNN hosts, and all these people who are, I mean, they got to just be actors, right? Like they're just there's no way they're this outraged, because they weren't this outraged when Obama was doing it. Let me know in the comments though what you guys think about Matt Walsh absolutely taking out the woke cult.